Ship Happens, the show where crew tell their experiences of working on cruise ships, hosted by Jimmy Crew and Jolly Roger. Hello, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Ship Happens. I'm here with Jolly Roger and I'm Jimmy Crew. And on this episode, we wanted to talk to you a little bit about the food on board. I mean, that's, I guess, another popular
Mm.
subject for guests and crew as well, because,
Oh yeah.
for example, for the guests, you have all these luxurious, delicious meals and specialty restaurants and whatnot that you can imagine. But imagine, like we mentioned before, that we have over 70, 80 nationalities on board. I mean, how do you cater to the taste of all these different crew members, right? That have majority of representation on the ship. So how do you make them happy? That's part of the morale as well, that the HR team is working with them to feel at home in one way or another. So besides like celebrating some of their local holidays from their countries or home countries, a very important part is their food. So if you're talking about crew food, you have to imagine that it's hard to cater to everybody's home country's meals. But again, you go to the crew mess and you have like every now and then like taste of the nations. So that's when the chef prepares food from like a little bit of every country or every area of the world to cater to some of the crew members. Do you remember any of the events that you used to organize? 'Cause I mean, since you're part of the HR team, you were able to organize with crew members. I think they had like a little box where they like, what's your home country's favorite meal or whatever, right?
Oh yes, yes. Well, yeah, we try to organize from HR department. They said, as you mentioned, morale of the crew, because we work every day on the ships, and that's why we organize. We try to, like, at least every other day, like few times a week. There's some event, and there's crew parties, and then there's, some bingo and sport events, and we're gonna talk about these in some other episode. But one of the events that we try to organize at least twice or three times a month was a food event. That's why we call it. And it was some special because we have breakfast, lunch, dinner all the time. And the structure on the ship is like you have these messes, the crew mess and the staff mess, and on some ships, new ship, there's just one big huge mess. And which is that's the term. I don't know, is everybody familiar with the word mess? It's kind of like a dining room, like a restaurant for crew, right, where they eat. The mess is very military word, right?
Yeah, correct, correct.
So yeah, so you have breakfast, and then as soon as breakfast is done, like 2 hours later, the lunch is already served, and it lasts for like 3 4 hours, and then lunch is done, and then you have like a little bit snacks like in the afternoon, and then dinner starts at like 5 p.m. and it lasts until like 9 p.m. And then 11 p.m. starts like midnight buffet or something, and it lasts for like 1 a.m. So like there's always some food, always, and delicious food. And but on top of that, we organized some special food events, which included like crepe day, right? So we have like all these crepes with different
Stations,
fillings,
yes, I remember.
stations, yes, or like donuts. Usually it's in the afternoon, sometimes in the evenings, like donuts, just like, I don't know, like 50 different types of donuts with different fillings. And or I don't know, there's many different food events. Usually we do that with culinary department, and chef is the one people can suggest, and then he will decide what ingredients they have, what they need, can they get it, and then what can they make. And it was always a big hit. I mean, that was, you can never go wrong with a food event because people love it. Plus, on top of that, as you mentioned, we have, when it's a different holiday, we have these holidays. So for Thanksgiving, that's just American holiday, even though we have 70 different nationalities on the ship. We all know about Thanksgiving, and the culinary for that time, dinner is turkey and stuffing and all these
Oh
things,
yes,
traditional
amazing.
things. So everybody in on the ship eats that, including guests. So we all have
Correct,
the,
correct.
I don't know how many turkeys they killed for that, but that was a lot of turkeys. And so
Poor
it was
turkeys.
it was poor turkeys, and it was amazing, really, those kind of events, food events. But I don't know. I just wanna to ask you. Did it take a long time for you to adjust when you first joined the ship? Did it take too long to adjust to
You
all
know
these
what? I
different
like I said, I
types?
came with low expectations, like from they had told me, and
Okay.
for me, everything was amazing, especially the food because like I said, when I first went to the mess, I guess after a few days, I started like, "Oh wow, this is like, food from Peru, this is food from India," so for me it was amazing. Now the thing about, for crew members that some people they're like, "Oh, was the food good?" Like the food is actually good. I mean, we have a large variety of food, but you don't you always end up getting tired of it. That's the thing, it's always it's a little bit repetitive and every now and then like you mentioned we have food events that they have like taste of the nations and like specialty events for example Thanksgiving. Remember my first Thanksgiving on board, we had turkey, we had the same food as the guests, and we also had like a cocktail bar like shrimp cocktails. They also had like beer and wine for the crew, like free beer and wine, sodas and whatnot. So I mean they definitely go above and beyond, just to make sure that the crew are happy, So I never had any complaints with the food. The only thing was that it did get repetitive at times, because for the most part, when it's a regular day, you have your typical salad, this and that, and that's about all your options you have, right? So
It's
uh
not a la carte. It's more like a buffet,
it's a
or
buffet
how
style,
you
yeah.
say
So
it's
you
a,
go
yeah,
there
a
with your
buffet
plate. I
style.
don't know if something's changed right now with COVID, but I mean, for the most part, you just go there, grab your plate, and you grab whatever you want as many
And
times
there's
as you
so
want.
many. So as you said, there's
Many
salad bar
options, yes. But
and
again,
meat.
you do tend to get tired, which is what we loved about going to ports, that you can get off port and you would go there and eat local food and even bring food back because that was sort of allowed as long as you didn't get caught or you just say you're going to eat it in
It's
the
sort
mess.
of
But
allowed as long as you didn't get caught. That's a little bit
eh,
contradictory.
but everybody, had their food in their fridge in their cabins because we all had fridges in our cabins. So, and as long as you didn't get caught, you were able to bring
You're
your
allowed,
local
yeah.
food from outside. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, the food for me, in my
No,
opinion, was
actually,
great.
you could bring food on the ship. It was allowed to bring on the ship, but the rule is that you have to eat it in the mess. So you can go
Right,
outside, get the pizza, and bring it on the ship, but you have to go straight to the crew mess and eat it
which
there.
nobody did.
You cannot take it to the cabin. That's the thing.
Man,
But yeah,
I told you the story that I had a friend of mine, one of my roommates,
he
that
had a
his
friend
cousin
that was cook.
was
Yeah.
a waiter, and
Mm.
one day he just knocks on the door of my cabin, and he comes in with lobster and shrimp and mashed potatoes, and I'm like, "What in the world is this? Are we allowed to?" And that's what that was my first contract, and almost like I think my second week. And my friend's like, "Man, you're gonna learn a lot about the little mafia that we have here on board when it comes to food." It's like, what do you want? You want sushi? I'll get the chef to make us some sushi. I'm like, oh my gosh, so it's always nice to be friends with everybody in the ship because you never know like who you're gonna need something from, and food was probably like one of the most popular things to have on board. Like have a good contact with that. But the food
It's the
again, like
best. I never had
you
to
just
complain.
yeah, and like you said, there's food literally all day long if you want to. And for some crew, like you said, there's crew and staff. Some staff were actually allowed to go to public areas. Those are the people that entertainment,
Oh
officers,
yes.
and other departments that are actually allowed to be out in public areas as long as they're dressed properly and with their name tag, so people identify them as crew. So I mean, we were able to go even to the dining rooms with the guests, where the guests eat, so you just have to ask permission for the hotel
Yes.
director to let them know
Yes.
that, hey, if it's not busy, is there a table available for us? And for the most part, they were very able to
We
let
eat in a
us eat in
restaurant.
the dining
We
room
eat in specialty restaurant like a steakhouse. Also, we were allowed
hmm
to. If you again, you have to make appointment and make sure that there's a free table. Like guests come
because the
first.
guests always come first, exactly.
Yes, and also during the port days, we were allowed to eat on Lido deck. Also, whatever
Yes,
that is there
exactly.
when guests are off the ship, so it's not that busy. You can go on Lido deck and eat there. And like, and
And
I
if you
really
remember on the ship of the that was out of San Juan, Puerto Rico, since we had 6 port days, we would always go to the Lido deck because
always
all the guests were off the ship, and that's where you have like the nice specialty like fast not even fast food, but I mean a larger variety of food that was delicious. I always
yes
had lunch there,
something
and then I would
different.
go out. Yeah.
Something different. Yes, yes, yes. I agree. And but I have to say, unlike you, like I'm coming from in my country, in my area, not the country, but in my area, in my family. I come from both of my grandmas were like professional cooks, and like I'm used to very delicious food.
Hmm.
But in my country, in general, in Eastern Europe, we don't use much spices in our food. So in my house, let's say we use there's on the table
Oh
there's
yeah.
salt, pepper, and we some and parsley and I don't know is there a fourth one. So that's all I'm used to. And when I went to the ship for the first time, and I'm not very picky and choosy about food. I mean, I love all food, but let me tell you, when I first came to that ship, like I didn't know, like everything was so spicy, and and the chef was, I think, Norwegian or something, and I'm like, how does Norwegian make all these spicy foods?
A
I would
Norwegian
understand
chef.
from, oh yes, usually Indian.
That's
Well, on only all
wow.
the other ships were Indian,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and it made sense. But Indian chef tried more harder to please everybody. They understood that not
Right.
everybody have their taste, but this
Like,
this guy, he was just making like these super super spicy foods from Caribbeans or India or some exotic places for me, and I couldn't adjust myself to those spices. So for like first 2 weeks, I only ate sweets like cakes. I lived on cakes, and
so
tiramisu
that's why
was
you
like
gained so much weight.
tiramisu. Yeah, and tiramisu on that ship, I lost so much weight because it was such a hard job. I was a photographer back then, and in the evening we would just go and eat pizza after dinner, after work, and for the lunchtime I would just for like it took me like 2 or 3 weeks to adjust my sense of taste to these exotic spices and tastes, this different tastes. But after that, I love it. I discovered so many foreign food that I love until this day. I mean, this Filipino dish, how do you call?
The
There's like
spaghetti one?
no. Oh well, I like that. That is something something with
What's it
J.
called?
Uh, jolly, jelly, something like
Well,
that.
that's a
Uh,
restaurant. Jolly
no,
Bee.
no,
Jolly Bee's like
Jollibee, yeah, something like that. But no, this Filipino with it can be with chicken or it can be. Oh, my brain now stop. And it's kind of like said like a sweet taste and a rich sauce. It can be chicken, it can be beef, it can be something inside, and it's so good. I discovered that, and every time when there was a menu, I would eat that because it's delicious. And then so many Mexican food, of course, I love it, and they have all the time. And on the menu, it doesn't matter breakfast or lunch, especially lunch and dinner, you would have for something for everybody. You would absolutely have some sort of chicken, some sort of fish, some sort of beef or pork, and then vegetarian dish. And then of course there's always salad bar and sandwiches, and like you can make your own like like burgers and sausages or something like that, and sauces and chips, or French fries. How do you call it? And it's
yeah,
like so. There's always something for everybody. They you can
yeah.
choose, and the
But some
menu.
of the people that have the hardest time were some people that came being vegan or vegetarian. I mean, well, for vegetarians, easy. But I mean,
Yep.
there's some people that would come with like all these food restrictions, and I'm like, listen, you're on a ship here, and this is kind of the food that's available. So I mean, you have to adjust to that, unless you get into ports where they have specialty food for them.
Yeah.
Allergies, of
They
course. I mean, they can cater to that easily, but
they try to I mean accommodate, but it's hard to accommodate like 1,200 crew
yeah,
members, and they
yeah,
keep
exactly.
rotating every week. You have 100 going home and 100 new 100 coming on the ship to work. So it's always rotating, it's always changing, and it's constantly 1,200 or 1,000 people that you need to serve, and it's really challenging. And I have to admit, from my perspective, they were very successful on every ship, because I mean, when you think of the challenge to like 50, 60 different nations, and even inside of these nations you have people that like that or they don't like this, and to make majority happy, that's a success. I mean, you will never make everybody happy, but to make majority happy with the food, it's a success, and it is amazing. And on the ships that we worked on that cruise line, the chefs, they have unlike for the guests they have, if it's a 7 day cruise, they have 7 days menu, and they rotate this same menu every 7 days, right? But for the crew, there's a 30 days menu. So they rotate every 30 days. You start from the beginning, but they have 30 days of different dishes, and then they will start again from the beginning. That was the thing on our ships, on our company that we worked on. I don't know if you know that, but yeah,
I
that
know.
was the official menu for the crew members. And it's hard to think of 30 different days in so many dishes. And I
Oh
love food.
yes.
I actually very much enjoyed food on the ships.
Well, many people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
What was
food
your
too as
favorite?
well. You know,
Tell me. That you
for
discover on ships.
for crew members. Oh,
But
it was
like,
actually
is there
Indian.
anything you
Indian.
discovered that you didn't know? Oh, really?
Oh yes, yeah. Indian. I guess Indian was to me like I guess the most like different type of food that I was used to. You know, because I mean we do have Indian
Mm-hmm.
restaurants, but I don't think I ever sparked any interest, to try Indian food. But on the ship, you meet all these Indian and like, oh, and they also have like what I mentioned before, the little mafia of, people that they know. They're like, hey, by the way, we made a special recipe, with the chef, whatever, that you can try some real authentic Indian food, And I remember I tried that was so delicious, and I can tolerate spicy food. I mean, not that as spicy as Indian like it, but enough to like not cry, for spicy food. But I remember one of my favorite dishes was butter chicken. Butter chicken.
Oh, is that Indian?
It, yes, isn't
Oh,
it?
oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember the name. I
Yeah,
probably
it's
eat it.
it's
I
like
mean,
this
I ate
it's this
everything.
sauce that can be spicy but not spicy, but it's sweet.
Mm.
And oh my gosh, it was amazing. And from then on, I mean, that's probably my favorite Indian dish. But I mean, there's so many other dishes that I tried as well. Like you said, Filipino, that spaghetti that I can't remember the name.
Yeah,
Uh
something like Jolly Bean or something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Jolly
Because
spaghetti
because I
something, yeah.
I thought when they first told me about this, I thought it sounded sweet to me. The name sounded like a
Yeah.
dessert.
And
But
it
then
is
when
and it is kind of sweet actually, like
it
the
is
pasta
sweet,
or
but
yeah.
it's like tomato sauce. It's red
Yeah.
color, it's like
Exactly, yeah.
spaghetti, but it's
But it's
so
got this
good. It's
sweet
so good.
taste. Oh my God. You
And
could eat a
I
whole
love sweet taste. I love
tray,
sweet. That's
yeah.
why I love another Filipino. In
Of
Filipinos, they
course,
have
the
a
Italians
lot
on
of
the ship
sweet.
thought it was a sin to like even have that on board, because they're like, ah, but mamma mia, that's not how you do prepare pasta. But I mean, it was, of course, everybody has their own take on special foods, But I mean,
Yep, yep.
Filipino food, there was since there were so many Filipinos on board, you got to try a little bit of their food. But also, what I did enjoy was when they had, I believe it was Balkan specialty day, and they had
Okay.
all these food from, the different Balkan countries, So
Mm-hmm.
a little
I
bit of
remember.
Romania, Serbia, Croatia, Bosnia, and all
We
with their
have
specialty. Yeah, it's
I have a
amazing.
story for that. Also, there was this one lady chef. I think she was the only girl chef, main chef on the ship. Usually, it's the guys, and she was, I want to say Filipino or Indonesian, something like Asian,
Hmm.
and she was so tiny and skinny, and but she was so feisty, like everybody was scared of her. Like she would run that kitchen like a clock. She would but she
Right.
was so good. She was good. She was fair and very social and nice, but don't you do no mamagayo with her. And
Yeah.
so I remember one time they were doing this Balkan, what you mentioned, this Balkan evening food event. And she asked me about some dish, what do I like, and she would say, oh, she found a recipe online, and she wanted to show it's some sort of like a meat pie, with pastry dish, right, with meat. And it's very popular in Balkan. but
Oh
uh,
yes. I remember.
but she said she wasn't sure. It was the first time she was going to make it, first time. And so I was there, and she's like, "Oh, come." I was in my training center, and she came to get me. She's like, "Oh, please, would you come and try it? I appreciate your opinion of this." And I'm like, "Sure." So I get there, and she's sitting right next to a chef, the main chef, which they're very important on the ships. And the main chef's sitting right, like across from me, and she's like, her eyes were like, like big dishes, right? She just want to see my reaction when I bite into it. And it was so good. And the first time she made it, that's how talented she is. The first time she made it, and it was so good. I mean, it was very close to the authentic. It can never be authentic like in the home country, any
Of
food.
course.
But still, it was so close. And then I asked my HR director, which is so against the rules and regulations, but I said, because this is it, that for dinner, I mean, everything is not gonna be eaten, it's gonna be thrown away. And so I asked, I'm like, listen, I just, this is so good, I don't want this to be thrown away. Can I just pile it up on one plate and just put it in my locker in the center and just keep it for tomorrow for breakfast and for lunch? She said yes. And so I did everything, as much as I could. I just put on one plate and just hid it in the locker, and I ate it for like tomorrow breakfast and lunch and like all day tomorrow. And
Wow.
this chef, she was so happy because I did that as well. She was like, oh, thank you so much. She was so scared that she's not going to make it, but she did. And it was one of my favorite food stories, because it's near, it's food that is close to taste that I'm used to. And it's nice when you have something like that when you're far away
Yeah, and
from home.
that's what like you mentioned, it's they try to make you feel at home far away from home, so they have to
Yes.
like, make you that's when they have events for their nationalities. I remember one of the I guess cultural shocks as well, it's like I remember it was an Indonesian holiday,
Hmm.
and the mess actually prepared it for one of their religious holidays, and they actually
Yes.
had an entire a pig, like with head and all, which
Yep.
obviously, if you had that with the guests, probably guests would freak out if they saw a pig's head, complete pig's head there that people are biting off of, whatever. I mean, I personally, like I said, I travel and I love it. So I
Mm.
remember they invited us over to join the celebrations and the
I've
prayers and
I've been on
whatnot,
one of those events, and they all dress
and it's
up,
amazing. Yeah,
right?
everybody dresses up, and the
The
entire mess is
traditional
it's
clothes.
completely decorated with their clothes,
Uh,
and then they're praying, and
they're
then
very
at the end, everybody
hospitable.
just celebrates, and they welcome anybody. Everybody's welcome. So I was invited with another girl from Brazil, and we're sitting there, just being respectful, of course, and appreciating everything.
Yes.
And I remember that the food came, and they don't spare anything. That they go all out when it comes to that for the crew, and they brought out this entire roasted pig. I mean, it was amazing. I'm like head and all, and everybody just passing around the plates at like buffet style. And of course, I wanted to try some of the pig's head and ears, and everybody's like, "Oh, you eat that too?" It's like, "Yeah, of course, whatever. Just give it to me." But it was so amazing, that they were able to cater to them, and all these crew members were talking about stories about home, and they can't wait to go back to see their families and their kids, and they just love it. Everybody just gets together, and then you just
Mm.
the next day back to work. But I mean, it's amazing, like I said, with food, how it brought so many other nationalities that didn't
But I
know anything about
feel,
the other
yeah,
foods,
but I
and,
feel
and learn
food is
about
the
their
glue
food.
glue that kind of holds everybody together.
Exactly.
And
Anthony
tell
Bourdain
me,
is a famous chef, says that as well, that it's the language of the world.
it is, and but we also have. It's not just the food. The crew mess was also like a place where you just socialize with people. It was very important place, for people. We sit at the table and just we eat, and then we talk about our day, especially after dinner
Exactly,
or
and that
midnight
and that
midnight
is that is
buffet.
actually a greatness episode as well. We can go on to that one after this because, like you mentioned, the crew mess is a place where everybody, they're on break, and you get to sit with whatever nationality you can imagine, from South Africa
And you
to
bond over
Indonesia,
food.
and you bond over food. But where is the best place where every crew member, and it's actually the happiest place for any crew member after work. You know
Oh,
where
don't
that
tell
is?
me, don't tell me. I let's let, let's
Guess.
let's find out. I don't want to guess. I want to find out in
All
the
right,
next
we're gonna
episode.
talk to you about it on the next episode. So
Are
stick
the
around for the next
happiest
episode.
place on the ship.
Yeah, that every crew member goes to after work, and a long day of work. It's not the mess. The mess. You just bond more professionally, but the place where anything goes, and the craziest stories for crew ever happen, and it started at this place. So we'll
Okay,
stick
so
around for the next
yeah,
episode, and we'll tell you what that is.
Jimmy and myself, we gonna say bye for now, and I hope to see you guys in the next episode of Ship Happens. All right,
Take care. Ciao.
ciao.